YouTube, this is Chop. Welcome to my channel. I hope this video finds you in good spirits. We're gonna go for a quick ride today. Today is Sunday. It's about 60 degrees already. Great day for early March. I'm gonna go for a ride and then we're gonna head over to Harley to get checked in so I can get my points. Gotta do that. Need every bit of change I can get for that Harley gear. So the topic of today, which Harley for you, is actually a response to a question I got on my channel from Tones. Tones, thanks for checking out my channel along with the rest of you. Appreciate the question, appreciate the comment. I will try to answer to the best of my ability. Disclaimer here, let me just start out by saying I am by no means an expert on Harley Davidson or motorcycles in general for that matter. Years ago when I first started riding motorcycles, I rode a crotch rocket. I mentioned that in my other videos. And it wasn't until recently, later in life, that I started riding Harleys. And in fact, this is only my second Harley. My first was a Dyna, which is pretty similar to a soft tail. And this is obviously a Road Glide, which is a touring. So those are the only two Harley Davidsons that I am somewhat intimately familiar with. And this is just my set of opinions, obviously. And you know about opinions, everybody has them. And they usually stink. So Tones, I see that your question, it looks like it was broken down basically into three parts. One, you're concerned about the weight of your bike. You had a concern about comfortability, how comfortable it is, and then engine size. And I understand you're looking to get into riding Harleys. So first thing, let me just say, don't worry about the weight, because you're looking at a soft tail or a touring model. So really you're talking about a soft tail, which is basically right around 700 pounds, give or take. And I'm pretty sure most of the touring models are hovering somewhere around 900 pounds. So if you had to lift up 700 pounds and right next to it you had to lift 900 pounds, both of them are going to be heavy as hell. So, right, you're not bench pressing it, so don't worry about the weight, you'll get used to it. Now, it's kind of hard for me to go into too much detail for you because I don't know a lot about you. Because there are a lot of things that you got to consider. One is, if there are any physical limitations, meaning I have a good friend. She has both a Fat Boy and a Softail Deluxe. She's only, I think, 5'1" or 5 feet tall. And she lowered both bikes. And even with them lowered, she's still on her toes when she stops. So that's what I mean, physical limitations. If you're really short, now I'm going to assume that you're just a normal sized guy, you know, average size. So that's something that you'll want to consider, because obviously if you're 6'5", you probably won't want to be on a Sportster for very long. And if you're 5 feet tall, well, a touring model probably isn't going to be comfortable. But I'm going to assume for the sake of this conversation that you're a normal sized guy. Also, I don't know what style riding you like. Are you the type of guy that you just plan on zipping around town, in and out of neighborhoods, going to your favorite coffee shops and whatnot? Or are you planning on taking some long trips, going across country? Now, of course, you're not going to be limited. I know plenty of guys that ride Softails and they take those bikes everywhere. They go across country, they go to Sturgis. I mean, they put some serious long distance miles on those bikes. And likewise, I know guys with really big bikes, like a Road Glide CVO Ultra, and I don't think they ever left town. So you know, you don't have to ride a certain way on a type of bike, but it's what's gonna feel good for you is something that you have to consider. If you're just wanting to beep bop around town, maybe you know, a soft tail or even a Iron 883, you know, something like that, or 1200, it's gonna be just fine. If you're wanting to go across country and take long trips, you might want some extra storage capacity that a touring model offers. You might want that touring frame and the suspension that a touring model offers, just so that, you know, you're more comfortable. The last thing you mentioned was engine size. Again, I don't think you really want to worry too much about that, because I had a Dyna before I had this, and it was a 96 cubic inch engine. It was a 6-speed, so it had plenty engine size. And heck, nowadays, you know, these bikes, especially if you get the specials, I think they're 114s and 110s and 117s, and hell, I see now Harley, I think they offer a 131. I mean, how big do you need it? So you know, don't worry about engine size. It's gonna come down to what feels comfortable for you. What do you like to ride and what you enjoy? What type of riding that you want to do? So now, you said that there are people who recommend that you start out on a smaller bike, smaller engine, like a Sportster or Softail or something like that, so that you can get comfortable to it, and then if you want, maybe move up to a touring model. When I started riding Harleys, I was asking questions just like you did, and the guys I was talking to told me the opposite. They told me, they said, just get what you want, because you will get used to riding it in the same amount of time. Meaning, provided that you've ridden motorcycles before, then you're going to get comfortable riding that Sportster in about the same amount of time that you're going to get comfortable riding that touring. You have to ride it, and you're going to have to get used to it. And what they told me was, because I wanted a Sportster to start out with, they say, well, you're going to waste your money, chop, because you're going to get used to that Sportster and it's not going to be enough. You're going to want to go on longer rides. Then you're going to want a bigger bike. You're going to want a bigger engine, and so you're going to end up trading it in and getting something bigger anyway. Now, if you're extremely inexperienced and in your mind, psychologically, you think you'll feel better on a smaller bike, and therefore you might be safer, well, then go that route. If you don't have any experience riding a motorcycle, whatever makes you feel safe is going to be the key, and a lot of that is psychological. So if in your mind you're going to feel safer on a smaller bike, then get the smaller one. And if you want to, when you get comfortable, you want to move up, then you can move up to a bigger bike. But if you're a safe rider and you feel somewhat comfortable around motorcycles, and your decision, you're just trying to decide which one to get, well, get the bike that you want, the bike that you like, the one that's maybe a little bit more suited to the style of riding that you want to do, and then get used to riding that bike. And that way you're not buying two bikes and, you know, stepping it up and whatnot. I had the same mindset that you did. When I first started looking at the Harleys, I thought, man, those bikes are huge, especially the Street Glide and the Road Glide. And I thought, man, they're just big. I want to start out something small. And I ignored what my friends were telling me, and they're telling me that, you know, I'm going to get used to riding, and then I'm just going to want something bigger and going to end up trading it in anyway. Which, if you talk to a lot of the Harley sales guys, they'll tell you that's exactly what happens. They'll sell a bike like a Sportster to, like, you know, a normal size guy, and in less than a year they're back trading it in, getting something else. And that's what I did. My first bike was a Dyna, or I should say my first Harley was a Dyna, and in about 6 months, probably less than that, I was perfectly fine with it. I was ready for something more. I held on to it a little longer, pressure, because I bought it from a friend of mine, or a guy I work with, and I didn't want to, you know, he was kind of attached to it still, so I didn't want him to think I was just buying his bike and then trading it in immediately. So I held on to it a little longer than I probably normally would have. But I ended up taking it in less than a year and getting this. So Tone, to answer your question, I personally would not worry too much about the weight and the engine size, because you will get used to it. And let's face it, bikes are heavy. You're talking a difference of 700 pounds versus 900 pounds between a Softail and a Touring. So don't worry about the weight, don't worry about the engine size. It's all relative. You're going to get used to it. Now, comfortability, yes, there is a difference there. Taking my Dyna out on the interstate, or even a road like this that I'm on now, as opposed to taking this out here, a world of difference. The Touring frame, the fairing block in the wind, just how it handles, it's just a nicer, smoother ride. So my advice to you, Tones, is test ride some bikes. Figure out what kind of riding you want to do, and then get the bike that suits you, because what suits you may not suit me, my friend. That's what I have. I hope that helps, Tones. And any of you others out there trying to decide which Harley to get, it's all about your personal preference and what you want to do with it. Thanks, YouTube. I'm going to keep riding for a little while. I'll let the tape roll. Cue in the cheesy music.